This is a place that evolved slowly over many years, picking up people, picking up cultures, picking up dreams. And then it exploded. When we landed in Singapore, Mike Gorrie was the first person we looked up. We found him just leaving the cricket club. He's a retired colonial civil servant who's been here since 1946. He speaks 6 languages, and he knows everybody in town.
Singapore is a remarkable place to live in. A city republic of 2.5 million people. People, mainly Asians, predominantly Asian extraction, who are not in the least ashamed of their connections with colonial days. On the contrary, they go out of their way to preserve their colonial past and their connection with the British. I have become very proud indeed to be myself a citizen of this wonderful city republic.
When Mike Gorrie arrived here just at the close of World War II, he found a Singapore that had changed little over the years. His impression was of people living and working and killing time, just as they'd done back in their Chinese and Indian villages. The pace was tropical and easy. The bicycle was a major form of transport. The parrot provided a moment of comedy by helping the fortune teller to tell your fortune. And a substance called betel nut, wrapped in a leaf for chewing, provided a mild lift for a tired worker, along with some red-stained teeth. The city was laid back. But when we arrived a couple of days ago, on one of the 38 airlines that land here, we got quite another impression. Dynamic, dazzling new place, a city in love with its future. No other city has ever grown to look like this in only 25 years. Today, 118 banks, bankrolling shipping, manufacturing, oil drilling, building 25,000 hotel rooms, and digging the only subway ever built within 2 degrees of the equator. Singapore is a small diamond-shaped island off the southern tip of the Malay Peninsula, just north of the equator and connected to the mainland by a causeway. This remote, expanding city knows how to deal with the international business traveler and how to entertain a growing number of tourists as well. On Sentosa Island, just offshore, we found an Asian version of Disneyland. The Singapore Zoo, with its new open design that lets animals run free and also lets them feel very much at home. classical Japanese and Chinese gardens, with many places for retreat and contemplation. The famous Jurong Bird Park, where we were greeted by a collection of 3,500 birds, and where visitors can walk through a gigantic aviary and get right up close to these many beautiful creatures. And offshore, artificial islands where the swimming and fishing are excellent. Singapore is a place of fun as well as finance, a place with many sights and tastes and sounds, and a visit is most enjoyable if it's not too structured. The experienced traveler will find something intriguing here, something that lies in the shadow of this futuristic skyline. The fact is that the past and the future exist together in this strange city, and the seam between them is always being restitched. In this huge modern apartment house lives a Chinese family Mike Gorey has known for years. They had invited him to lunch, and he asked us to come along to meet them.
Heng Tai Tai, ni hao ma, hao bu hao ah, hen chu bu jian ni ah.
There's a small family shrine in their apartment, and in the other Chinese apartments in the building as well. Though their surroundings are contemporary, Gorey's old friends lead a very traditional life here. Their religion is the hub of their existence. And religion is the very reason that the past continues to survive so powerfully in modern Singapore. Its mysterious pull touches everyone. In the year 1820, the first mosque was built in Singapore to serve the Malay community, the people who were here first. The Chinese immigrants who flooded in later brought an intermingling of Buddhism, Taoism, and Confucianism. Smoke is their messenger to the world beyond. Candles and joss sticks are burned constantly before altars populated with many gods. And opium smeared on the mouth of a god is supposed to keep him in a good mood for granting favors. When the gods' birthdays come around, the worshippers send them gifts of handsome gowns that should please them. They're made of paper, but the symbolism is more important than the fabric. Now they will be carried to the world beyond on the wings of smoke. The Indians of Singapore. Only 7% of the island's population, but a powerful Hindu presence. In the legendary tolerance of Hinduism, there are as many concepts of God as there are minds to conceive him. With so many gods to deal with, there's almost always an Indian religious festival going on. Hundreds of people jam into the Sri Mariamman temple each October for an unusual test of religious faith. At the Festival of Timothy, the faithful walk on fire, crossing a bed of hot coals in bare feet, unharmed. An incredible form of worship, and no wonder emotions run so high. On these coals, you prove your purity and your devotion to the goddess Draupadi. But some believers are not up to the test, and their momentary loss of faith can result in a catastrophe, a genuine medical calamity in which the worshiper winds up in a hospital burn unit. Yet the bizarre rites go on. The trial continues all day. And there is great joy when a friend makes it safely across. Interestingly enough, the very same individuals who are caught up in this ancient fiery festival are also people who lead quite modern lives. They stand astride both worlds, with one foot in the past and one foot in the future. And if religion is the stronghold of the past, then the shopping center is the purveyor of the future. They shop day and night in new shopping malls that are unsurpassed anywhere. Their children shop too. They all seem to have fallen in love with the latest intricate gadgets and high-tech equipment. But even here, the past reaches out to touch them again. They buy not only real TV sets and computers and cars, but paper replicas of the same. These effigies are burned, and thus they are sent on to a deceased ancestor who is presumably as crazy over high-tech equipment as they are. And so the ancient halls of heaven come to have all the modern comforts of home. The power of the past can affect corporations as well as people. The past punched a hole through this Singapore office building owned by IBM, thus making a passage for good spirits who travel on the wind. The idea came from a geomancer who practices the ancient art of Feng Shui. We went along with the local geomancer to the apartment of a young couple in trouble. He works with special tools, including the geomancer's compass. He'd explained to us that his work balances forces and diverts ominous spirits by adjusting either the building or its contents.
But I have to get a pakwa on the door, will be better. Not the main door, but the glass door.
On this glass door?
Yeah, on the glass door. Will be better. Prevention is better than cure. And this house to the family.
The problem here was real enough. The young couple could not save money. And in a Chinese household, this is a serious deficiency. The position of doors and mirrors is apparently critical to the solving of such a problem.
This door, if you can, to face here, you got a hand. I will advise you to put a mirror and put a plant.
Among other things, a mirror will be placed so the ominous spirit will see his image as he enters the apartment, then turn around and flee. After the survey, the space doctor writes out a prescription just as a medical doctor would. The relieved young couple are true believers in Feng Shui, and so, oddly enough, is the manager of the Hyatt Regency, who also called in a geomancer.
It was recommended that we should have fountains of water right in front of the hotel. That's how we got 3 fountains with water running.
The location of water is important because ominous spirits cannot cross water and so can't get into the Hyatt to cause any more trouble. It would have been easier if they'd hired the geomancer even before they hired the architect. A graveyard. Nothing speaks more eloquently of the past.
This is a very old Malay graveyard, and most of the people who were buried in this graveyard were probably here when Raffles landed in 1819. These original Malays were the inhabitants of the island long before the British came to colonize it, or the Chinese in their thousands came from China, and the Indians from India to help open up this area.
Mike suggested we take a tourist boat on a 20-minute ride from the mouth of the Singapore River to Pulau Siking. This traditional Malay kampong, a village on stilts at the water's edge, looks today much as Kampongs looked when Sir Stamford Raffles came ashore here in the year 1819. Only a few miles from the skyscrapers, we found another and quieter world.
The lovely people. Somebody once described them as nature's gentlemen, and I think that is true. They're extremely generous. This is partly the effect of Islam, which teaches them to share, but I'll be brutally frank. I'm a Scot. If I was down to my last porridge bowl, I'm not sure that I would share it with somebody else, but I'm pretty sure that a Malay would share his last rice bowl with whoever needed it.
Over the years, the quiet Malays were gently shunted aside by the grand plan of the English civil servant, Sir Stamford Raffles. Landing here, he envisioned a city and he built it, based on the unique idea of a free port, a port where any cargo could be landed and pay no tax. Colonials and Chinese and Indians poured into the new city. 4 months after Raffles landed, the population was 5,000. It has never stopped growing, and this has always been a place of remarkable racial harmony. On a hill above the city, a group of young archaeologists is digging into Singapore's distant past. They are under the leadership of Dr. John Miksic, and their work will put this modern high-tech city into an historical perspective.
We have several different objectives on the excavation. The first one is just to prove that, in fact, there was a significant period in Singapore's history much earlier than 1819, 14th century. Second, we want to recreate or retrace as far as possible the trading connections. Our excavations here show that Sir Thomas Stamford Raffles wasn't the first man who appreciated the potential significance of a port on this island. 600 years ago, already the Chinese, the Malays, the Indians understood that a port city located on this island could become the most powerful, most prosperous port and the key to the economy of this whole region.
And they were right. The city could evolve only as the port evolved. Today, as in a long ago time, its location has been a great natural resource, a major gateway to Asia. On any day, 600 ships in port, modern container ships, supertankers, tramp steamers, all here for one reason: trade.
Trade's the thing. Trade with Indonesia, trade with China, trade with Japan and Europe. And we're at the crossroads. We are the #1 port of the world. We've overtaken Rotterdam and New York, and we're very proud of this.
Pride in the port, pride in the city, and pride in just being a Singaporean. There are 2.5 million of them today, and more are on the way. These children will grow up under a powerfully paternalistic government, but one that has effectively dealt with crime and the drug trade and has given everybody a place to live. We found a kind of innocence in the people of Singapore today, but maybe it's always been there. Long ago, Somerset Maugham called Singapore the Smiling City, and we found that it still is. At the end of every day, a piece of the future slips forever into the past, and it's time for a break from the pressures of both past and future. It's fun time. Hard-working Singaporeans are ready. There are many choices. Ours was to drop in on the show at the legendary Raffles Hotel, and then to sample the legendary drink that was first mixed here by a legendary bartender. We even got the recipe.
The Singapore gin's leg is made with the beefeater gin, cherry brandy, Benedictine, Cointreau, and Angostura bitters, and some fresh pineapple juice and lime juice.
Actually, it was a pretty good drink. And then the bartender told us a pretty good story. It seems that the last tiger in Singapore was shot under the Raffles Hotel billiard table and then nailed to the north wall. The bartender didn't know what the tiger was doing under the table or whether a billiard game was in progress at the time, but then a legend can never be pursued too far. Then on to dinner. The choice of restaurants in this town is overwhelming. You can eat fine food in fine surroundings. You can eat fine food in more ordinary surroundings. And the look of the food is considered to be as important as the taste. Or if you're feeling informal, you can go to Newton Circus, an amazing place, 100 stalls built by the government at which you can sample the kitchens of all Asia. You give your order at the stall, then find a place to sit with your party. And in a little while, a man comes with a dish that you will probably remember forever. Another nice thing about Newton Circus is that you won't feel so much like a tourist. You'll be surrounded by the local citizens. They love the place. As the night rolls on, more choices, many more choices. You can elect to go to the world-famous Singapore Symphony. Or you might prefer a performance of the ballet. On the other hand, if you're feeling adventurous, you can search out a performance of that ancient, energetic, and emphatic art form, the Chinese opera. In a place as dynamic and explosive as Singapore, you need more than a parrot to predict the future. This is a city where the future hurtles at you like a freight train in the night, and it's hard to figure out exactly what it's bringing to town. But one thing seems certain. The explosions of the future will never crowd out the past altogether. The high finance will continue, of course, but so will the incense and the smoke and the worship and the festivals. They will exist side by side in a fluid rivalry as this remarkable city-state finds its way to tomorrow.
So for me, Singapore's a go-go city. This is new, and the new citizens will inevitably look to the future and not live in the past. And I think this is the way it should be. We are a country of the future.
Welcome to Photo